Hey, I'm Theo, and thank you for joining me. Today, it's been 2 days since the last patch with the buffs and nerfs, so it's time for a new best decks video. As always, I'll have 10 of the best decks and then 5 more decks for classes that didn't get featured yet, or just new emerging decks that don't have a lot of data yet. If you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe to help me out. Anyway, let's get started with the very first deck. And it is Druid for the very first time. Druid is on top. This has absolutely never happened before. A deck with ramp and big minions that are in first place for Druid. Nope, never happened before. It's pretty much got the same core as before when they had to ban Splish Splash well because it was too dominating. So that got nerfed to 3 mana. And also recently, of course, the Kydrake got nerfed to a 2-4 stat line. The new expansion gave him some new tools with new heights and Sleep Under the Stars, but yeah, nothing too big, I'd even say. Overall, the core, yeah, it's still the same for this deck, and it's still very, very powerful. Just that early ramp, it's very consistent. The dragon tempo early on, and then into the very strong late game. Yeah, what else do I need to say? You've probably seen this deck quite a few times. You know what it's doing, and yeah, it's easily the best deck right now. Then next up, we have our returning deck again. It's Insanity Warlock. Now, this deck didn't really get hit by the nerfs, because I don't think it really was running Zilliax before the patch. One of the few decks that didn't. So this didn't get hit, while every other deck got hit. And yeah, this deck is still incredibly powerful. New cards also help from the expansion of the dim to just have a bit more draw. And Tideful Pupil just spam even more crescendos. Like I've seen people do to me like very early, like 25 damage on turn 6. Like, yeah, that's a pretty crazy amount of damage you can do early. And that's what makes this deck very, very powerful at the moment. And that's why I kind of put it at the second best deck at the moment. And as the third best deck, we actually have one of my own decks that I made and has been pretty popular and surprisingly doing very well. It's the Rainbow Death Knight. Of course, I'm a very big fan of the Rainbow Death Knight archetype. And yeah, the patch did quite a lot for this deck. Because a few cards got buffed. First of all, we have Buttons, the one Death Knight card that got buffed. It's still a bit slow, but a nice buff, just a bit more playable. And yeah, what it also allows you to do is, of course, be a tourist to the Shaman cards. And we had Natural Talent get buffed, so now it's actually kind of playable. It's the only nature spell in the deck, so it's the one card you draw with Buttons. I don't think you really want to be running 2 of this because it's not that good of a card. And well, this deck, honestly, I wish you had kind of more slots. There's so many more cards I want to put in this deck. Another card that got buffed is the Razzle Dazzler from 7 to 6 mana. And yeah, this can get a lot of stats on the board immediately. Remember, this card always summons a 5 cost, even if you didn't cast a spell school. So yeah, if you cast 2 spell schools, you get 3 5 cost minions and this 4/4. So yeah, that's a lot of stats for 6 mana. It might often be hard to actually get it on turn 6. But when you do, yeah, it's incredibly powerful. And if the opponent's deck doesn't have a board clear, it might just win the game right there. The Zilliax I got there is the Twin Perfect because it's kind of a nice late game heal. And since Ticking got nerfed, yeah, I don't think it's really worth it anymore in this deck because you often don't go that wide. And you won't reduce the card by that much. And then the next up we have the Evolve Shaman. It's running a lot of new cards. And yeah, the Evolve Shaman got its name from the Mock Pools and the Wave of Nostalgia. And it just does what Evolve Shaman usually does, just play for board early, then yeah, if a board sticks, or you set it up like Sigil of Skydiving into Wave, you build a big board with that, then don't clear it. You can then evolve the biggest one with matching outfits. You get cheap Sea Giants, which unlike Zilliax, still works for every minion on the board. And then yeah, you can like finish them off with like a Bloodlust, or just do the sheer pressure of the evolved minions. The Zilliax here, well, we got Pylon ticking still because you actually often can go kind of wide. Like a card like Sigil of Skydiving, it's kind of easy to set it up. And with like Warlock, Growthwind, Pop-Up Book, it's really easy to get a lot of cheap minions on board quickly to make that Zilliax go down very fast. And then the last deck we got in the top 5 is, well, Zarimi Priest. It shows up pretty often in the top 5, even though it doesn't get played a lot. It always has really, really strong stats. And nothing is different here. It did get nerfed a little with the Zilliax nerf, but you're still playing the same old one because, again, you have a lot of cheap cards, so you can easily get on board fast and then buff those minions on board with the Zilliax. And yeah, pretty much the same as before. It's running some hunting cards though, the Sasquatch and the Trusting Fishing Rod, but overall it still plays the same as Zarimi Priest before. And next up we have, Handbuff Paladin, again, the very common occurrence in the best decks videos. And the same here, yeah, not much has changed. The Zilliax nerf didn't hit this deck, because it was always running the copy Zilliax with the power module. Because, yeah, that can really win some games. Now, yeah, what else is to say about this deck? It's the same as before, so I'll just go on to the next one. Not much has changed here. Then we have Pain Warlock, yeah, another one that has been around for a while. Same one here though, the Zilliax, well, it got nerfed, but you're still playing it, because, yeah, a lot of cheap cards or 0 mana cards. You can easily go white and then buff up your board with that Zilliax. And yeah, same as before this one. Not much has changed to before. It's running some of the new cards, like Curse Souvenir, Party Fiend especially, very powerful Zilliax. But overall, the deck you know from before. Then we have Aggro Demon Hunter, a new deck from this set. And this time posting a version with the Tourist Arena, so we can play some priest cards. And what you can see here, we're playing Acupuncture, because the extra damage is pretty nice in aggro deck to finish off the opponent. And we of course play the Brain Masseuse, a very powerful early minion, just win the board very early on, push that damage, and then finish the opponent off with some burst cards. Then we have next up the Concierge Druid. Yeah, this got nerfed twice, but yeah, it slowed down a little bit. But also, because the Zilliax got nerfed, you know, other decks that beat this deck before also got slowed down a bit. So overall, still a strong deck, Concierge Druid. But overall, the win rate did go down. So it did get nerfed a bit, though. I kind of wish more was nerfed in this deck. Not really the most enjoyable experience to face. Yeah, same as before. You got the dragons early on to ramp or contest the board. Get a cheap fire out to protect yourself until you get that combo with Concierge and just do infinite amounts of damage. And last up in the best decks, basically the 10 best decks, we have the Highlander Shovel. I'm kind of surprised that this is here, but it actually showed some good stats. And it's the only Highlander list in this video. And as you're going to select from a Reno list, it's running all the good cards. A lot of cards from the newest set too. We've got Cookie, we've got the patches, City of Skydiving, Daydream Cliffside from Demon Hunter. And we got a few more cards like Frosty Decor, Razzle Dazzler as well with the buff in here. We got the Gorgon Zorbo as well for some nice early board. And then of course the Highlander cards in Reno and Dark Holiday, though the strongest card in this deck is the Gorgonev, just an absolutely insane card, the Titan. And it's kind of crazy, this card. It's just better than the Highlander cards, but yeah, that's the way it is. And then we have 5 more decks for either classes that didn't have a list yet, or a deck like Frosthaft Knight that is kind of new and hasn't quite proven itself yet. So this deck has a few different things going for it. First of all, we got the Brittlebone Buccaneer, so you can get some extra minions on the board with either like Miracle Salesman, Harbinger Winter. We got the Chill Fallen Baron, and we got of course the Reska, as always the best card in any Death Knight deck. So this deck is running some of the newly buffed cards as well, just like Rainbow Death Knight. A lot of cards are similar to a Rainbow Death Knight. We got the buffed Natural Talents, we got the Buttons, and we've got the Razzle Dazzler. And yeah, this deck is a bit more tempo focused compared to a Rainbow Death Knight. It's got the Cabaret Headliner to cheat out a lot of mana early. It's got the Horn of Winter because you're playing 2 Frost Runes just to use more mana early on. We got the Mirror Manipulator as also a 2 Frost Rune card. So overall, yeah, you try to get on board early, get some spell schools played, and then drop those Razzle Dazzlers as early as possible to kind of overwhelm your opponent. And then as damage, we got the that Mirror Manipulator again and the Horizon's Edge to push a lot of damage. Now next up we have the Spellmage. You've seen this before. Yeah, it's very similar to before. It is running the new the Sea Breeze Chalice. Pretty nice if you get the spell damage. And as you can also see here, it's not running new location because, well, it's just a little bit slow because it's 3 mana to nothing. And yeah, the mana is so fast, you can't really quite afford that at the moment. But maybe if the mana slows down, you can play that card. Now, then we have a returning deck, although it's been quite a while since this deck was really in the meta. It's It's the Odin Warrior. Odin still the same as before, but it got some new tools, and well, more like new Druid tools with Sleep Under the Stars and new heights. Well, taking this deck not quite to new heights, but yeah, definitely boosting this deck a bit, so you can get the Odin down earlier, even though it did get nerfed to 9 mana. And yeah, besides that, the same as before, just survive in early game or ramp. And then, yeah, play your Odin, and then you can win pretty fast because Sleep Under the Stars, that does a lot of damage, especially combined with Razor Fan Rockstar. That's a lot of damage. Usually, the armor part of this card doesn't really see much play. Usually, it's draw cards or refresh mana, but yeah, the armor part, big deal in this deck. And yeah, you can win the game pretty fast once you play the Odin, especially if you get a Wind Fury weapon of the Ignis. Now, another deck is the Rogue, and yeah, Rogue, they did get hit pretty hard with the Zilliax nerf, actually. Dropped a lot in the win rate. No longer having access to like cheap Zilliax if your opponent is ahead of board. They really hurt this deck, especially because you can make it a 6/6 with the pit stop and tutor it. It means that actually taking damage hurts a lot more now. And as a result, you can see no longer playing a Maestro or the 1 mana 3/3 from Warlock, because yeah, no longer there's the synergy with the Zilliax. So it's not really worth running because Maestro by itself wasn't very good. But besides that, yeah, this deck looks, I'd say, pretty familiar. It's doing kind of the same stuff as before. We've got now the greedy partners as well, just to get like really the kit out earlier. And overall, yeah, it's just Excavate Rogue, just a bit worse. But yeah, this seems to be the best Rogue deck, although like a Miracle kind of Rogue. It gets played in High Legend and can do some pretty crazy things with Sonya and just kind of go infinite, but probably not the best way to climb, so that's why I put this deck here. And then the last deck, well, it's Hunter. Didn't put Hunter deck yet, and well, it was pretty hard to find a good Hunter deck because, well, nobody's playing Hunter at the moment. So yeah, there's not a lot of stats on it. This seemed to me like the best deck is Highlander Hunter, but yeah, it's only if you really want to play Hunter. Of course, it's running Reno and the Thaldarin as the Highlander cards, running a bunch of big late game stuff. The Zilliax here is the Haywire, plus the Perfect module, and yeah, I don't know if this is better than the other Zilliaxes, but like I said, there's like no sample on this list or any Hunter list, so yeah, it seemed like the win rate wasn't too bad. It was over 50%. Nobody's playing it pretty much, so hard to say really how good this deck is. But there's the Hunter deck that well, seemed the best out of all the Hunter decks. So if you want to play Hunter, and well, you got all these cards because there's quite a few legendaries as usual in a Reno deck, then well, you can maybe try out this one. And that is it for this video. I hope it was useful. Let me know down below if you used any of these decks and how it went. Thank you for watching, and until next time.